We're going to go ahead and get started with our Commissioner Status Update meeting. Today's date is March 4th, 2025. The time is 10 a.m. In attendance are Commissioners Eberline, Duncan, and Matari. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Public comment. Hearing none. Let's get into our first item, Justice Building Update. It's a discussion item, and we have David Mendez and Jeff Fuller, our Director of Building and Grounds.
Good morning, Commissioners. David Mendez with Turner and Townsend Heery. First progress on the buildings. We're finishing the project from third floor down. Third floor being the most complete. They're installing access ceiling tiles and grid bars. Their doors will be in April, and then that will be that floor finished. Second floor, they've started the carpeting. They're installing elevators, the painting, finished painting of areas, plumbing trim. Down on first floor, they're slightly behind that, and they're just now starting the priming and painting. That's nearly complete with the prime coat. Lower level, they're doing plumbing and overhead secure areas, the mechanical finishing and taping. The exterior of the building, we've got 3 windows that, I don't know if you've seen, but they're still not installed. We've done some testing. We had another failure on a window, which is why we do that testing. So you're assured that you get a good seal tight building, and they're repairing that. And we're going to add a couple more tests now that we've had a failure. We want to make sure that glass is sealed properly. This afternoon you will be looking at, I'm looking for a decision on what to do about a fire protection system in the evidence storage area on first floor. So we have an evidence storage room that we've talked about before. We've got the pricing finalized on it, and I just wanted to make sure, give you some background so you have an informed decision this afternoon. You're looking at 2 options. One is a compressed air option. So we will take the fire sprinkler lines out of that room, so you won't have any water in that room. There'll be valves that are set up outside of that room. In the event of a fire, the sprinkler head would break and we'd have fire protection in that room. But what that does is, so this is a request by the bailiffs. They did not want to have water in that room, so that if we had an accidental leak, that we would damage evidence in that room. So the other option is a gas charge rather than just compressed air. That's typically done on an exterior building where you would have fire sprinkler lines that are just outside the building. They run that nitrogen gas instead of compressed air, so that you don't have corrosion, condensation and corrosion in that line. That's not necessary on the interior of the building, so I'm recommending that we don't do that. I've got consensus from mechanical engineer, the fire protection people, that agree with that. So that is an option, and it's about a $12,000 add. So, and it takes up space by having these nitrogen bottles on the interior of that room. So I don't think that's a good option for you. So we are recommending acceptance of the first option, which is compressed air system. So Jeff has some information to go over about update on the furniture purchase. We've got some new information that we need to go over with you.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Beforehand, does anyone have any questions about that?
No, I'm just fine with approving the lesser of the 2 options because it fits the bill without going overboard.
And that's largely because it will not destroy evidence, but it does maintain the fire suppression capability.
Correct.
Yeah. Commissioner Eberline, any questions? No? Okay. All right.
Okay, so it actually is in your next agenda item, and I know Commissioner Eberline had a few thoughts and comments on it, but I mentioned to him in the hall prior to the meeting, there is a little bit of late breaking news with the FF&E. So if you recall, when I had contract design with us last week, we chose Global Furnishings as the option that we were going to go with, and there was some question about with tariffs coming up and whether they were a US-based company. So the information is Global is a company based out of New Jersey. They have manufacturing sites throughout the world, including where this would come from would be in Canada. I sent you information in a memo that they provided that they felt like they would not be subject to tariffs. They called Contract Design last night and said, we think we actually may need to start charging tariff fees on orders that come in now with the new laws coming into effect from the government. So they're not exactly sure how that's going to play out, but they did warn us that likely upcoming orders would be subject to tariff charges. So that kind of puts us in a little bit of a dilemma because likely the cost that we've been discussing will probably go up regarding that. And so I just wanted to present that to you. And about 4:50 last night, I did get that call from Contract Design saying, hey, we just got some of that late breaking news regarding that. So where does that leave us? Really, there's three different options. And I've spent last week doing some additional research, having Tori Nelson, our representative from Contract Design, look at some of the US-based companies that we know are manufactured in there. We're not 100% sure all of them manufacture solely in the US, but we looked at Herman Miller, OFS, Kentucky Office Furnitures, and there was one other one that I can't remember the name of. But all of those, the typical desk was coming in at $1,800. That's about the best price point we could find for any of those companies. If Global goes up at, if everything in there goes up 25%, that's going to put us right around that $1,800 range in that Global design that we picked as well.
Is that comparable to what we were getting before? In price?
Well, yes. So the Global, initially the price I gave you was just under $1,300. That's the line that we had
So
selected.
we're still sticking with $1,300 and it's put together in the USA.
Right. And so, no, the USA companies are around $1,800. And then, so the one other option is that HBC. That was the first option on the memo that we discussed yesterday. That was $999 for the typical. A little bit of research into that company. They are a US-based company based in Portland, Oregon, but they're an import company. So they're buying product imported from other places and then storing them in facilities throughout the US. There's one in Portland, there's one in Seattle, there's one in Sacramento. That's why when we basically buy, it's an off-the-shelf package that they have in their warehouses that would come to us. So again, that one was $999. We reached out to them and said, how do you think tariffs will impact you? And they said, we don't think it will because those are manufactured in Malaysia and Taiwan. And so far, there's been no discussion about tariffs on that. So really, there's kind of three options. Global is uncertain right now of what our exact pricing will be when we actually place the order based on tariffs. The US-based companies that we looked at are right around that $1,800 range for a typical, or the HBC option for $1,000 that is imported. So that's probably the best price point that we could find from that standpoint. So it puts us in a little bit of a quandary. It kind of spins us out a little bit, but we need to have that conversation and discussion.
Any questions?
Probably not questions, but comments. We'd still be saving $175 a desk with a 25% tariff. So that's about 10 grand over the 60 desks. So
Yeah.
sticking with what we've already chosen is still going to put us ahead of changing companies at this point.
Unless we go with the HBC option, that would be still a significant savings.
Right.
Cameron?
Well, let's talk about what are the total dollar amount differences? We're just talking about per unit.
So the HBC, I'm just going to use pretty round numbers. The HBC is $1,000 for a desk. Okay. The Global we quoted was $1,300 a desk with a tariff that would be unknown at this point of what that would go up to. But if you just say 25% on that, I think you're looking at about $1,700 on that one. For the US-based companies of Herman Miller, OFS, Kentucky, those ranged from basically $1,825 to $1,865 per desk in those price ranges.
And I mean, total dollars, not just by unit.
Well, times 65 desks. So I'd have
Okay.
to pull a calculator out and do the math on that. So you're looking at like 65 or
So at this point, we're looking at 25% on top of 1,300 is about 1,600 and some change. So it would still be less expensive than the $1,800 that you found at other places.
Correct.
Right? But if we ended up going with the $1,000 option, we would be looking at what, about 650 times, what'd you say, 65?
65 desks.
1,000 times 65.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, the price difference.
Oh,
The price difference is $42,000.
Right.
So we would save $42,000 by going with the lower cost option.
Yes.
And, you know, it kind of gets back to our discussion from last week, which is where's the value?
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, if we had $1,000 and this desk would hold up for X years, or $1,600 and this desk will only hold up a little bit longer, then I would argue the value is at the $995 or the $1,000 at this point, given what has happened. So then my question would be, what is the deadline of when we can place an order? Because as fast as these tariffs have come in, they could just as quickly disappear.
Yep. Yeah, the lead time with Global is roughly 8 weeks. So, you know, our target is to order by April 1st. That gives us 2 months to get the product in. The HBC, because that is basically in stock and we're buying from warehouses that is in stock, that should be 2 to 4 weeks for basically shipping and getting it here for that.
But we would probably want to, if we were to go with the lower cost option, we would probably want to at least place an order and have a hold, because whatever they have on their inventory, that's it. That color, that style, what have you.
Yep.
Commissioner Eberline, comments, thoughts?
Let's get them for as least as we can get them.
So are you more inclined to go with the lower cost option?
I'm inclined to go with the USA option.
Yeah. Which would be the 1,800? Okay.
Because if I've built a lot of cabinets and a lot of fancy stuff, and you get what you paid for. And it might be cost prohibitive in the front, but it's like on a Filson vest, you know, quality is good.
Well, you make a good point. I guess my question then would be, is there a value step up with an $1,800 desk or workstation?
It's similar, and it's still a thermally fused melamine on a particle board. So it's pretty similar in terms of the build quality to it.
As similar to the $1,000 option?
Yes.
Okay.
My experience there's thermally fused melamine and there's thermally fused melamine, and they're different. They're pretty cheesy kind of stuff. This, how many years has this lasted?
I don't know. When was this installed?
A cheap one would not last nearly as long as what this is. This is good stuff. We're not going to have to take this out. You get what you paid for.
Well, would you like to go ahead and just get some options before the board on the more expensive ones? We could take a look at that. It sounds like we have some time.
We have a little bit of time. I don't know that we have a ton. So, and the challenge is, you know, contract design, that's why we've been trying to provide the typical, right? So we can go off of the typical pricing so that then they can go in and build the order, because it takes a lot of time to build the order because there are some different sizes. Then they have to price the judges' desks with variations on that and things. And so, you know, they're trying to get us to commit on a typical that we would want to proceed with so that they can, you know, go get the entire, you know, final quote for us.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So did I hear this correctly, that the $1,000 desk is the same quality as the $1,800 American desk?
That's my understanding. It's the same build design with a high-pressure laminate, a thermally fused laminate on a particle board.
So the Global, the one that we're still looking at, the 17, what's going to be like 1625 if we go with 25% tariff, is a higher quality than those two other options.
Yes, yes. But I'm not sure there's significant differences in any of these. They're all fairly similarly made.
Well, I guess then one question I would have, and maybe it's worth just checking into, is that, is the $1,800 desk in fact made in America, or are we just dealing with another American company that's going to import?
Right.
Because if that's the same situation, then I think it'll be a lot easier for us to make a decision here.
Yeah, I asked that question last night. She was going to look into it today, so,
Okay.
to verify that.
Well,
So every single week, and if we have to have a special meeting, then let's do it.
yeah, we can have a meeting with relatively short notice, and that way you can get the direction you need, and just give us a good hard deadline of when you need that by, so we know.
Okay.
I think you were saying April 1st, you wanted to make that order?
Yeah, that's our target date for placing an order.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I do have a comment. So, you ever have a spit wad fight?
I'm trying to think of what that might be.
Well, if you knew anything about spit wads, you're going to hit them at each other and try to hit them. And you want to get the hardest spitball you possibly can to make it hurt the most. Well, thermally fused melamine and particle board is just like that. You can take you could take this piece of wood right here, and you could take a crappy piece of particle board, and it'd fall apart. When you can take a paper and microscopic paper, thermally fused particle board, and with laminate on it, and it's gonna fall apart. You got to put good stuff with good stuff. And if you do, it'll last for a long, long time, just like this has done. Things ugly, by the way, but it's, hey, look what it's doing.
Well, I recall you talking about the different amount of pressure that's used to
Yes.
put the particle board together. So those are probably questions that we should have answers
Well,
to.
here's another question. So an example, there was up in the Met Howe in Washington State. There was a house up there that we did put particle board cabinets into them. We used the top of the line stuff, and it's packed hard as a rock. It got flooded. We didn't even have to tear anything apart. It stayed in place and had no flaws because of the quality of the particle board that we used and the properties of the thermally fused melamine. And we didn't have to do anything to it. But the cheap people that were building next door, they had to throw everything away.
Yeah. Well, is that something you think you could identify on the quality of the materials?
I'll ask the questions.
You know, I guess one of the questions would be, you know, what pressure is used to create the particle board? Would that be?
It is, it's the pressure, and it's, if we could get a sample from a quality particle board manufacturer here, and there's lots of them here in Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, Spokane, and see what it looks like. And you'll see a vast difference just in appearance when you're looking at an elevation on this side.
To that, I would like to just address what Commissioner Matari had said, and I want to make sure that so the wear and tear on desks like these occurs at the connection points, so where the drawers fit to the desk, and also the edge treatments. So the edge treatments are where the wear and tear come in. I want to make sure that we are certain that we're talking about the same quality. You mentioned, are these the same quality? And I want to make sure that some of the upgrades that you get with the different desks are a thicker and a better bond with that edge treatment. With elementary schools, that's what we really put a lot of emphasis on, is what that looks like. And there's a variety of different levels of quality there. So I want to double check on your question make sure that we're answering properly.
I appreciate that. I think, given the big jump with the tariffs and the fact that they can disappear at any point in time if, I guess, other political activities occur, that we might as well at least understand what we're about to say yes to.
Okay.
Okay, anything else on this item?
If I could lend one more thing to you. There was a guy that, one of my clients, wanted plywood and nothing else. He didn't want any of that foo-for-raw particle board stuff. And I said, wow, that's pretty neat. This particle board's pretty good stuff. And, he just kept jabbering away. And I picked up a knife and I started going like this. And I said, this stuff lasts forever. It just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and goes. And I was talking to him about, probably 5 minutes of how it would work. And he says, I want that particle board. And he bought it. And he was happy as a clam. It's the quality of the wood.
Well, but you can see, we're talking about these desks that are right in front of us, and we've got some,
Yes.
the damage to them is on the edges. So I really want to make sure that we address your question about that quality.
Okay. All right. Well, that concludes item 1. Next up is item 2. It's Justice Building Furniture Consideration. It's a discussion item. We've already kind of discussed that a little bit. Commissioner Eberline, did you want to add more to what our earlier discussion was?
No, I don't think we need to.
Okay. Well, then we can move on to item 3. This is Clearwater Financial Presentation. It's a discussion. We're going to talk about open space, facilities master plan, and the parks master plan. And we have Cameron Ariel from Clearwater Financial. Cameron, you there?
Yes, good to be on with you guys. Yes, good to be on with you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. So why don't you go ahead, and it's your show now.
Excellent. Thank you so much, commissioners, and it's good to be with you. Just wanted to get back in front of you. We had some discussion late last year, and now we have Commissioner Eberline now on the commission as well. Wanted to just do a brief intro to our firm and what the county had asked us to present about previously, and then certainly answer any questions that you have, and maybe articulate some path forward with assisting the county with the prioritization of some projects and moving forward with some planning. So our firm, Clearwater Financial, we're headquartered here in Idaho, and we are the only Idaho headquartered municipal advisory firm. That is a designation with the Securities and Exchange Commission, who is our regulator. And we also adhere to the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board regulations as well. And in a nutshell, that means that we are required to act as a fiduciary to our clients in the services that we provide. And so that means that we act in your best interest, and we have a duty of loyalty and a duty of care with either the advice we provide you or the services that we extend. And previously, we talked a little bit about the front end of our service offering, which is long-range planning, where we help counties like Kootenai County with a gamut of planning needs, whether it be comprehensive planning, strategic planning, master facility planning, and financial planning for their needs. Also embedded in that service is kind of underlying all of our services is the idea of public engagement, making sure that the citizens of the county are able to participate and have voice in that planning process, so that the plan, albeit definitely needs to be informed by the elected officials, also the staff, the practitioners, but also has an element of the public's thoughts and will ingrained in them. And so, and then when that process, naturally what comes through that process is how to fund those plans and fund those projects as they are prioritized. We marry that up with an implementation plan, including a financial plan. So how to pay for it, what is contained within that capital stack, and assist with that process as well. And that includes some budgetary, ongoing budgetary assistance. So making sure that every year when projects come up and are, due to be included in the county's budgetary process, that we're helping assist with that and making sure that the plan is current and living. Also, that includes bonding and financing in the open market or through investor bank financing as those needs arise as well, to make sure that that's done in a way that has the lowest possible impacts to the county citizens and taxpayers, as well as making sure that those projects are concluded and completed. And then again, year over year, as those projects roll through, we assist with adding any additional projects that need to be added, or if there's additional communication with the public that's needed. So really, it's meant to be a comprehensive service, aiding the county with all of its facility needs and other planning and finance needs ongoing. And so with that, we've presented to the Commission a master's services agreement that contains all of those services, and certainly would love to engage with the county to talk about some of these priorities that we've heard about, and really any others that the stakeholders of the county want to bring forward and tackle. What we would normally what we would do under the master services agreement and our retainer is work with the county to get all of those priorities and all of those projects out onto the table, and then work through a process to prioritize them. And that may be a master facilities plan that's been discussed, and I think that was of interest to the county. It may be these other needs as well, but really it's that kickoff and prioritization process that would help unearth any projects that may be out there, and then working with the county to prioritize those projects and start working where you would like us to. And I'll just give you kind of an example of some of this. So we just concluded a master facilities plan with Madison County over in Rexburg. And it came to our attention, early on in the process that their road and bridge building was really in bad shape and quite frankly not safe. And so almost right out of the gate, that was the priority. And so we kind of knew that going in, and we worked on that, kind of got that rolling, and then started a master facilities plan and a comprehensive financial plan kind of on the heels of that, so that, we were addressing the needs of the county in real time. And the reason I mention that is, every county's different, all needs are different, the community's different, the will of the community, so on and so forth. The plan isn't meant to be static or, etched in stone at any given point in time. It's really meant to be a tool that aids the county in accomplishing its, varied and multiple needs. So hopefully that just kind of captures that in essence. And now we're since adopting the plan, we're about 4 months in. We're working on the second and third projects, which are a fairgrounds master plan, and then also a potential joint venture with the city and the school district over there to create and build a joint administrative facility. So just kind of that's just used as an example of kind of how this may work. But again, the real intent is to get started with the county and start unearthing all of the projects and needs that are out there. So with that, commissioners, I'll just pause and certainly open to any questions that you may have around our services and or the master services agreement, or any questions that you may have on the processes. So,
Well, thank you, Cameron. Any questions? No questions. So, thank you very much.
I do have statements, though.
excellent.
Okay, well, Commissioner Duncan, go ahead, please.
So we've been talking about this for not quite a year yet, and I think that, especially coming off what a lot of the criticisms were of the county during the alternate forms of government, is we didn't plan. So this is an opportunity for us to plan, and I think that this is a low-risk way to do it, low financial risk, to just start with a couple ideas and go through a prioritization process. So I'm especially interested in the Parks Master Plan, how it relates to open space and the sensitive area recharge, aquifer recharge areas. And so I think that's something that the board should consider enlisting this help with.
Okay.
So if I bring a master service agreement forward for next Tuesday's business meeting, would I get at least one vote?
I don't know.
Okay, what
I'm
else?
not familiar with it. I haven't been down that path yet.
I can give you a little bit of background with it. What happened was there was a master services agreement brought before the board, and it asked for a $1,000 a month retainer, but there was no project that the board had agreed that they wanted to get done. So in essence, initially it came across as we were going to enter into an agreement with another firm and then figure out what we wanted to do. I was not real keen on that. And I believe Commissioner Brooks was not very keen on that either, which is why we didn't enter into that agreement. If there is a specific project that this board wants to get done, then it makes absolute sense to go out and find the right firm to get that project done. That was not the way we had it. It actually came across a little bit more as putting the cart before the horse in that sense. Let's get the agreement signed, and then let's figure out what we want to do after we get the agreement signed. Open space is on here. I was very much a fan of what we did before with the open space pond. The reality is that open space actually helps to mitigate future taxes, because open space doesn't require jail beds, it doesn't require classrooms, it doesn't require wider roads, and in essence, the small amount we would have paid for the open space would have more than been offset by the demands of services and taxing. But unless the board says, hey, we want to engage in this project or that project, it's hard for me to say, let's enter into a master's agreement. Commissioner Duncan, if you want to bring forth a proposal for any one of these projects, I am certainly open to it.
Well, that's what I need this company to help with, is to unearth all the things that I'm not thinking of because I'm not a master planner. So they do the prioritization. They actually interview us and stakeholder, department heads and whatnot, to find out what the needs are, and then they can help us prioritize. But I think that a master parks plan and a facilities master plan are definitely needed. And with the SARAs and the open space, I would really like to further vet those ideas out to see if they are worth pursuing.
Let's give it a try. I'm not sure that I'm giddy about it because, I expected that we should be a do-it-yourself kind of place. And we have a lot of smart people here. And so we should be able to do something ourselves.
That's why it's a low risk at, $12,000 a year retainer, because they'll give us up to 60 hours per project within that scope. And if we decide that we are going to go after one of these master plans and it's going to be over 60 hours, then we can entertain.
For me, the master plan, it goes, that gives me the heebie-jeebies. I don't like that term.
Yeah, if there's one area where these types of plans can play a role, it has to do with developing impact fees. If the board wants to implement that, you have to have that kind of laid out in order to determine those things. I guess my only question is does it have to go through getting into a contract first before the case can legitimately be made before the board that we need to do that?
We should have the public drawn into this a lot because that's who we serve as the public.
And that's who I'm starting with, because during the alternate forms of government, that's what they said over and over again, is there's no planning done, there's no planning. This is an opportunity to plan.
Yeah, and the only challenge with that, and having sat on that board, was the fact that when you change the Board of County Commissioners, the policies can change. I mean, we have spent a lot of money on a number of studies that I've seen go nowhere, and because different boards have different priorities. So that's the only concern with that, is that we could come up with this really wonderful plan for the future, and a future board could just say, I don't think that's a priority for today, and we're just going to push that aside and do something a little different. That is the only real risk of setting up such a long-term, paying for and setting up such a long-term plan.
Except he said that it is living, and so as these things change, because the master planning that we started in 2019 absolutely got thrown out the door in 2020, and there was no way to know that. Mm-hmm. But those documents are still valuable and can help us still look at the future. Because what I hear from you is I'm bringing you these things that I think that we should, as a board, look at, but you keep saying, well, why? Because the next board can just throw in the trash. So then that means there's no planning.
Well, I don't keep saying it, okay? I've only brought it up once. I said I'm not averse to looking at these things. My question is, do we have to enter into an agreement before we can find out what's on the other side of entering into the agreement with respect to these projects? Is there no other way? Is there no other person that could come before the board and give us a presentation that says, here's what a facilities master plan can do for you, and here's why you need it, and here's how it can play a role in impact fees if you decide to do that. And then we as a board can say, either there's a need for it or there's not. And if there's a need, then let's get into an agreement and start working on that.
Okay, I just wish I would have known this prior, because I wouldn't keep wasting the time of Clearwater Financial to do this. So
Commissioner Duncan.
I would ask that we get a presentation by our facilities director and our parks director as to why we need these plans.
Commissioner Duncan, it's very simple. I was just averse of entering into an agreement without understanding what we were going to do. And in that board meeting, I asked point blank, do you have any projects in mind? And the answer I got was no. So, I'm sorry that you feel this way, but the reality is I've been very consistent. I've never said no to any specific project. I've just said I'm not interested in entering into an agreement to figure out what we're going to do. If the case can be made that this board should spend money on a particular study or a project or a plan, I am for it if that case can be made. What I'm not for is just entering into agreements to figure out what we're going to do. And I've said that all along. I've been consistent on that policy initiative, and I'm happy to entertain anything that you want to do. But I don't think we have to get into a contract. And if Commissioner Eberline feels different and he wants to enter into an agreement first before we see these things, that is the board's prerogative, and I'm fine with that.
There's been a lot of discussion on how Kootenai County should be run, from legislators from years and years ago. There's been studies, do we change the form of government? Do we do this, that, or the other thing? And they all flop on their face every single time because nothing new is coming out. It's a pipe dream. And so would it just be another pipe dream? I don't know. But it's going to take somebody that's going to drive the boat and keep pushing on it. So, and
Commissioners, if I might add just to that point, I think that's a really important point. Is what do we do with a plan, and how do we make sure that it doesn't just sit on a shelf or it's not useful? It's important to note that the majority of our employees come from the public sector, but also have private sector experience. And so we've been on your side of the table. We've had consultants come, do studies, do plans, and they're really nice. They look great. They make sense, but they, for whatever reason, don't end up getting implemented. That's something that we, as a company, are very adverse to. We don't want to do a bunch of work to talk with your community, to work with you and your staff, to put together a plan that then you adopt, we go away, and nothing happens. That's the worst case scenario. That is a waste of money, and I would not recommend that you do that. What we have put together, and I would say is very unique to our company, is that we put together a plan that lives, that you will revisit, that we will come back to you every year, and report on the status of projects. We'll report on the needs of the next phases of the project and the priorities that are coming through that. And we will also give you tools to actually implement them. And, it was mentioned about future, commissions or decision makers. What you're doing is you're establishing a process that involves the public. So there's a little bit of certainly, there's the prerogative of the commission. Commissioners can do, as really whatever they would like with 2 votes. But if you go contrary to the will of the people that informed the plan, there is that kind of, if you will, political check. You would have to have good reason. And so, if you're concerned about future commissions, shiny objects, whatever that may be, really what you're instituting is a process that will check that. It may very well be that is, a new commissioner comes on, they have a great idea. Well, that's fine. Let's put it in its proper sequence in the plan, and address it as needed, or as the will of the county would prioritize it. So hopefully that just gives you a little bit of comfort, and certainly we would highly recommend you contact Ada County, Madison County, Valley County, Elmore County, Owyhee County, Payette County, who we have completed these types of projects for, but are, again, ongoing, helping them in their fiduciary and best interest accomplish those plans ongoing. Again, just wanted to put a finer point and hopefully drive your critique of past planning efforts and articulate why what we're proposing is hopefully very different. If you've had those negative experiences in the past, we'd love the opportunity to help you get positive experiences going forward.
Well, Commissioner Duncan, if you want to rally some folks to provide a presentation on what kind of plans you think we should be looking at engaging in developing, I'm for that.
I would be too if you want to take that up.
Okay.
But with the understanding that if, like I said before, if I don't agree with it, it's not that I don't agree conceptually with it. It's that I haven't been convinced enough that we should spend the money and put the resources into it. So it's not about wasting time or anything like that. It's about making a compelling argument that if it makes good sense for this community, especially if this community wants it, I'm 200% behind that. But I want to make that clear so I don't hear the, well, why am I wasting my time if you don't say yes? Because it's really about making a compelling argument that that says why we should do this. And I just haven't heard that yet. I'm not averse to what you want to do or what you're proposing.
Could I say, can we be brief, be quick, and be gone?
So
You favor open space. So is that something that you want to look into again?
I would love to. The only problem is that it just didn't get the kind of legs from those who are very pro open space. And so to do the same thing over without a different game plan, if people really would like to see it, is to me not going to yield the fruit that we want. And that's really the challenge. Every time I spoke with a different group and explained what it was, people who initially were against it said, I'm for it. It makes sense.
Well, that's where this company can help us
Yeah.
better put a path forward this time.
Yeah, so I'm open to whichever one of these you want to start with, and let's look at it. Anything else?
No, I agree. If we're going to do it, if we're going to give it a whirl, let's see what we can do.
Cameron, thank you very much for calling in and for your time.
Oh, you bet, Commissioner. It's always a pleasure, and certainly let us know if you have any other questions or we can be helpful in any way. So look forward to it.
Thank you. Okay, that's item 3. Let's move on to item 4, termination of launch leases. This is a follow-up with Parks and Waterways, and we have Director Nick Snyder.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nick Snyder for the record. Good to see you. Well, on January 6th, the board issued a notice of termination on that 2015 lease agreement, Lakes Highway District, which I know you're aware of. And so for the benefit of the public and Parks and Waterways staff, I'm before you this morning to seek your direction as to a date certain that Parks and Waterways would remove their signs and anything else that indicates that the facilities are managed by the county. And that's why I'm here before you this morning, is to seek that direction.
Any questions?
How did we get here?
Well,
Yeah, I was going to ask on background.
okay, I'm pleased. Well, that lease required the county to pay Lakes Highway District approximately $25,000 annually to utilize those properties so the county could provide boat launch facilities at 3 different locations, which was Bayview, the public launch there, Maiden Rock, which is at Spirit Lake, and then Lower Twin. Most people know it as the Par 3 road. Thank you, Sarah. The Par 3 road launch there. And as of January 6th, when the board terminated the launch leases, we had paid Lakes Highway District just over $221,000 in hard cash from general fund tax dollars for use of that. And that does not include the additional cost to replace that center dock that we replaced in 2016 and the associated infrastructure that goes with that dock, the cost of ongoing maintenance for the restroom buildings, supplies, staff time, fuel, electric bills, and the cost for the new dock that Parks and Waterways recently constructed and is ready to install should Lakes Highway District give us permission to do so. And so the total of those costs, Commissioner, we estimate to be conservatively about between $350,000 and $375,000 since 2015. And again, most of that was general fund tax dollars. So with that said, we only collect boat launch fees at Bayview. And those revenues since 2015 total just over $50,000. So that's an approximate net loss to Kootenai County between $300,000 and $350,000 just since 2015. And of that, again, $221,000 of that was paid to Lakes Highway District for the pleasure of using those properties. So that's nearly 60% of the total expense since 2015 for Kootenai County to provide boat launch services to the public. Those payments were made to Lakes Highway District. So that's, in a nutshell, why we're here today. Now, there's some additional information regarding how this is intertwined with airport leases and some of those other issues that the airport's contemplating and the board is dealing with. But that's Parks and Waterways sort of a piece of this. And that's why we're here today. So we just want to better understand what the board, or when rather, the board would like us to remove those signs and that infrastructure, so our staff is clear of the direction that they need to go, and the public is clear as to who's managing that facility moving forward. Yes, sir.
Nick, I think I'd like to read the rest of the backstory, because it's been a while since I've been looking at this stuff. I think it's been about 8 years now. Sure. And so I was very familiar with it then, but right now I don't, can you fill us in?
Sure.
Or me at least.
Sure, I'll do my best, and I can use the commissioner's help too. So both the commissioners, these two commissioners, are very well aware of kind of how we got here. So sometime in 2015, the Board of County Commissioners entered into an agreement.
Could you speak up, please?
Sure, I'm sorry. I'll do a better job. So sometime in 2015, Commissioner, Lakes Highway District approached the Board of County Commissioners, as I recall it, best I can, and we're looking for relief from having to pay a lease payment to the airport for their facility located on airport property. At that time, a commissioner approached the airport director and myself and said, I have a concept I'd like to discuss with you, which is whereby we would use general fund parks dollars to pay essentially the lease of Lakes Highway District, and in turn, Lakes Highway District would charge the county for use of those boat launches. Prior to that time, Commissioner, going back to about 1974, don't hold me to that, Kootenai County was charged $1 for use of those facilities. So in an effort to appease Lakes Highway District, the Board of County Commissioners entered into this lease agreement. So since that time, as I explained earlier, we've paid approximately $221,000 to do that. What's important to note, Commissioner, is that did not relieve Parks and Waterways or Search and Rescue or other lessees of airport property from paying their lease. So not only were we then responsible, we being the Parks General Fund levy dollars, responsible to pay that lease for now those use of those boat launches, we were also responsible and still are to pay the lease for Parks and Waterways, just like Lakes Highway District. Our building is on airport property, just like Search and Rescue. So it was a real, it was a financial ding, certainly, to Parks and Waterways' ability to provide services, and we've been paying that since 15. The Board of County Commissioners, during their budget deliberations, decided that they would forego paying that lease, so they did not include those dollars in this fiscal year budget to be able to pay Lakes Highway District. The Board of County Commissioners met with Lakes Highway District. You'll have to forgive me. I believe it was 2022. I was there along with Commissioner Duncan, where we discussed this being an issue. Then Commissioner Matari met again with Lakes Highway District and the district chair. You'll have to forgive me. I think November, possibly December of 2024, and had another discussion about how this is problematic. And in January, the Board of County Commissioners made the decision that they could no longer pay general fund tax dollars, i.e. spend taxpayer dollars to support these boat launches. I think it was a wise decision in that, quite frankly, it was burdensome to Parks and Waterways and our taxpayers to pay these kinds of dollars to provide boat launch services at really one location, in that Bayview is a developed facility. The other two, Commissioner, are not. Lower Twin just has a simple dock, and Maiden Rock has no infrastructure at all. So I know that's a lot of history, but that's how we got here, and that's the reasoning for the decision that was made by the Board of County Commissioners.
So what are the ramifications?
Well, I hate to speak to that too much. I can just say that what Parks and Waterways would like to do, and the board has been very supportive, is we had to remove a dock not related to any of this. In December, it had some flotation that was leaking into the lake. We removed the dock, and this was just all coming to fruition as we had to remove that dock. And we've been trying to replace that dock. We've since constructed it, and we'd like to replace it should Lakes Highway District give us authorization. It's in our yard now. We're waiting for some materials to finish it off, but the ramifications to the boater should be fairly nominal if we're allowed to replace that dock. The dock that we're constructing, Commissioner, is polyfloat, steel frame, and concrete decking, so it should last 25 to 30 years conservatively. So if we can get that dock replaced, to your answer specifically, the impact should be very little. However, if there isn't an agency responsible for keeping eyes on those 3 properties, cleaning it up, assisting the public in following those rules that are in place, at least the county has in place today, I think the downfall is that those places could get messy and not properly managed.
Who, in your opinion, who should manage those properties?
That's a tough question. I think the commissioners have already made
I think you're up to it.
decision, yeah. I would say that an agency best suited to take care of those are those that specialize in marine infrastructure and providing boat launch services. Kootenai County, I happen to think, does it the best, but I would say any partner from Fish and Game, Idaho State Parks, or another agency that's uniquely equipped to provide marine facilities would be a good fit. I certainly think, again, Kootenai County is probably the best, but that decision's been made. I would say this, Commissioner, to continue to pay $25,000 a year and have a net loss to taxpayers to essentially provide boat launch services at Bayview is probably not the best decision. I think there's a better answer, but I will let.
It needs to be by the user. You're gonna go boating, you're gonna pay the price.
And we do have a launch fee there, Commissioner. The issue with Bayview is it's not a classic boat launch parking lot as you would sort of envision, where someone drives in and it's a parking area, and we can otherwise enforce those fees. Clearly stated, Bayview is problematic. Very few people pay. We don't have the same control that we would in a parking lot area where we know who's there, who's using it. A lot of those parking places are up in town, and that's outside of what we feel is our jurisdiction to walk through a city and start dropping citations on trucks with boat launches, boat trailers. So the enforcement is problematic. People just don't seem to pay the fee the way they would in an otherwise sort of encapsulated parking lot, if that makes sense. So we do have a fee structure, but it's difficult to collect, sir.
Which doesn't help us.
It doesn't, sir, especially when we have the additional burden of that fee that was implemented in 2015, the lease fee.
So what are you gonna do?
Well, I'll start with step one. Step one, I'm hoping that Lakes Highway District will quickly give us authorization to install that dock. I have to submit an encroachment permit as required by Idaho Code to the Idaho Department of Lands. That's a 30-day process, Commissioner. Our materials should show up about that same time, 30 days. My hope is that we receive that soon so we can start the permit process and get that dock installed and figure out the other details between the respective boards, the Lakes Highway District Board and this board. But for the benefit of the public, step one, I just want to get the dock in. That will solve a large part of the issue with our good citizens. They're waiting for a dock. Boating season's on its way. So if we could start with that, and hopefully we'll hear from Lakes Highway District soon, and hopefully they'll meet with the Board of County Commissioners and there can be a conversation. That's my hope today.
I'm sure you have ways to put together a package to, incorporate a lot of people over there to get it moving.
Well, as I understand, Commissioner Matari's been gracious enough to schedule a town hall on March 11th.
Oh, good.
In Bayview. And then I understand that Lakes Highway District has a meeting, I believe it's Monday, March 17th, where they've invited the public to come in and chat with them about their role, Lakes Highway District's role in the future of managing those facilities and get that input. So hopefully following that meeting, maybe we'll have some additional information.
I think it's very important because that's a real draw up there for Bayview and all that stuff. We need that stuff.
I agree more than you know, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Duncan? Questions, comments?
What's the drop dead date for the dock? When would be the latest that you could install it to Chair?
Well, Fish and Game has indicated that we can pretty much go when we need to, obviously following an approved IDL permit. So that's good news. We would like to see a little more water. The water would come up higher for when we dry pilings, but boy, I'd hate to install that any later than June, considering the boating season. Before Memorial would be best. So again, we would need to submit a permit no later than April to be able to sort of hit that window, because we also have to schedule a marine contractor to come in and dry piling. So we construct the dock, we deliver the dock to the boat launch, and a marine contractor would then dry pilings and place that dock. So to make all those pieces arrange, sooner the better.
And I take it some of the options for the board are to consider, if we want to work with Lakes Highway District, is to go back to how it was before, prior to 2015, 2016, where we would possibly entertain a $1 a year lease and then provide these services. Or if the Highway District wants to release those properties to us, put them under our purview, and then we would provide that service. I take it those are options that would be satisfactory for your department, provided the board wanted to go that direction.
That would certainly help, Commissioner. Reducing those costs, number one, would go a long way in our ability to continue to maintain them without running a deficit for the taxpayer.
Yeah, okay.
But there's still going to be a deficit there, just because we can't control the launch fees. So it's still going to be a money loser for the taxpayers, I think.
Well, that would have to be a discussion that we'd have to agree upon. I understand that. And the past board, and I presume this board, is very open to the idea of making it a fee-based service that is fully covered and not taxpayer subsidized. But I think maybe there might be some additional ways that we could try to collect these fees. I know over at, is it Blackwell, they don't really have a person there, but they do collect fees to use the boat launch. And so there might be some electronic ways that we could actually capture that. Now, whether or not that would allow for some sort of enforcement is a different discussion.
If I may, one thing that'll really help commissioners is as this board's aware, most of our funding for these marine facilities comes through vessel registration fees. If we can reduce that lease cost of that burden really of $25,000 a year, it would allow us to then strictly use, for the most part, use only boater money to make that program work. So again, just that lease itself going away will save $25,000 in tax dollars. However, to Commissioner Duncan's point, there will be some net loss, but it'll be substantially less without that lease.
Fair enough. Anything else?
Well, I mean, he's asking for direction right now, but I think it's just a little bit premature. So I would say that if we don't hear from Lakes Highway District by, I don't know what, March 19th or something, then we don't have a legal right to be there right now to provide service or anything else. So.
Well,
It's a good point.
and this is related to removing signs and so forth, correct?
As well as maintenance. So we're in limbo, Commissioner. There are docks, there is a dock, single dock at Bayview currently, as well as Lower Twin. And these facilities are essentially unmanaged in that Lakes Highway District is just not equipped to manage these things. So we just want to ensure that we have clear direction from the board. Would you like us to, at the very least, keep eyes on it and work directly with Lakes Highway District? Should there be a hazard there? I would hate to have a hazard out there for the public that is slipped between the cracks, because we have two agencies that are currently working some things out right now. Even though we're not allowed, we don't own it, and we no longer have a lease there, I am pleased to reach out to Lakes Highway District if our staff sees an issue and ask for their authorization by email to make that repair or address the problem. for the benefit of the public. Again, I'd hate to have those kinds of situations out there until this can be remedied.
What was the date of their public meeting? The 8th?
17th.
March 17th.
17th. So I would argue we would give them by COB on the 24th to give us some sort of a direction on what they would like to do. And if we don't have that, then let's reconvene and give you some direction. That would give them a full week to kind of come to us if they choose to do that. Otherwise, you're in a state of limbo.
That could be kind of a hostile looking. I think we got to do something better than that.
Well, what would you propose? I mean, we really have to know at some point in time because our notifications, our signs and everything. I mean,
Well,
I agree with you, we should do it slow.
You know, I think Leslie's got some ideas and Nick's got some ideas, and I'd like to see something like that work. Because we certainly don't want to be in a hostile situation in any way, shape, or form, because that's detrimental to everybody. And nobody will be happy.
Well,
That's my thought.
what would you propose then as far as direction for Director Snyder?
I would say that, see what he can do. Nick's a pretty talented guy. I've been around Nick for, gosh, if I count the 18 years that I was gone, there was 4 more years behind that. So I'm very confident with Nick.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think if the board I can't remember whose point it was, but a good point, they meet on March 17th. And I think giving them a few days, or whether it be a week, whatever the board decides, for them to have a discussion, get their feedback, and respond to the county, or maybe not, whatever the case may be, just a date certain that the board says, okay, no longer maintain it, remove our signs for the benefit of the public too. The public's confused right now as well. So I think giving that certain date that everybody knows that this is when we're going to remove signs, and Lakes Highway District will also have clear understanding of the facility needs to be managed by them at that time.
Well, what about this? Why don't we just reconvene on this issue on the 25th? That'll be just over a week after their public meeting. Maybe we'll have some new information, and then we can kind of make a decision from there.
Yep. We've got to have some compromises, probably.
I'm pleased to, Commissioner, whatever you decide. I did, again, just some clarity on I'm going to call it emergency situations, if you will, where we have hazards that affect the public safety, potentially environmental, if we have a boat leaking or something at one of these facilities. Is the board supportive of me reaching out to Lakes Highway District and offering our assistance until these decisions can be made? Again, just in those emergency situations, and only by written authorization by way of email. They're not equipped to handle some of those things specific to marine issues. And if the board is supportive, again, I'm not talking about ongoing maintenance, but if there is a problem between now and that time, is the board supportive of me working with Lakes Highway District to address any public safety issues at those locations?
I am.
It's fine.
Very well. So do I have the direction on the 25th you'd like me to come back?
Let's reconvene on this issue.
Thanks for your time this morning. I appreciate it.
Unless something else comes up and we need to address it prior to that.
Absolutely. But if we don't hear anything,
Yep.
let's set the 25th.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, that's item 4. Next up is item 5, employee interviews with the media. It's a discussion item, and it has my name next to that. And the main reason that I asked to put this on the meeting agenda was quite simply because I've had contact with media who would like to interview county employees. And we do have a policy on that. And so I just wanted to revisit that and see where the board is with this. The specific issue at hand is the Coeur d'Alene Press with our transit department. Are there any thoughts on that? And I have some thoughts about that as well.
You can go first.
Would you like me to go first? I think it really should be dealt with between the commissioner and their liaison. That if the commissioner says go for it and they're okay with it, I'm okay with it. If the commissioner wants to sit there with during the interview, that's fine. Or if they just say, I'd rather it be pushed up to the board, that's okay too. I think the challenge a lot of times is, we want to make sure we have a unifying message, and the elected officials largely, if not completely, are responsible to the public, and so we have to answer for the questions that are given to the media. And so that would be my proposal.
Works for me.
There's going to be a lot of differences. Anyway.
Okay. Well, with that said, we will move on to public comment. Come on down.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ron Hartman for the record. I got a suggestion on the desk. Why aren't we asking for a volume discount? We're buying a lot of desks. I think we ought to get a discount versus the actual price. The old saying, volume discount, we've all heard that, right? I think we ought to try for it. The other one, Mark, you've got the experience in this. You're the guy that can determine the best value. That's clear to me anyway. You got the knowledge, you've got the experience as to, the product, the material, and that sort of thing. The only thing that I'd mention on that is if we're in less than 10%, absolutely America first. I'm not opposed to paying a little bit more to say we bought American. Of course, I'm a little biased. I worked for 3 American companies, but that's what Trump campaigned on. One other one then, moving on to collect revenue on this dock. This is a hot topic, but you could put a plate reader on the dock, and then you could see who put money and deposited it, and if there were plate reads that didn't put their plate read on there, you fine them, and that's how you get the user to pay for the service. I just think it'd be an easy way to do it, and a fair way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Anyone on the phone? Nope. 11:13. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.